Hey folks, I'm here with you today to give you an update on our Hugelkultur style berry patch. Last spring we put in berries behind us here, and because our soil drains so fast and is so poor, we knew we were really going to struggle to keep our berries watered and moist if we did not do some sort of amendment with the soil. So we decided to put in Hugelkulturs in the ground. And this is our second summer, so I want to walk you through, show you what happened. I know some of you are interested and you wanted an update, so here it is for you. Let's go walk through the berry patch and look and see what's happening in there. So the currants are actually doing really well. I just got these starts from a friend, but you can see they're actually putting out fruit this year, which is amazing. And this bed actually looks pretty good. There's not a lot of sinking that happened. I think we packed the dirt in really well. So the logs underneath here, this soil is actually still looking pretty good. I planted some young asparagus in here this spring. But what you see over here is our blueberries, and they're doing okay. But folks, this is how much these beds settled because we bought these berries in pots. Look at, they kind of stayed in their pot shape. Now these were covered up to here. Last summer when we planted, they were well covered. So these beds have really sunk, and it's evidenced by the roots. There's another one here. Old rhubarb leaves, but all of these you can see we had quite a bit of settlement in here, so we are going to have to top these back up and cover them because blueberries like having their roots covered. The plants are looking pretty healthy like the currants, so that's exciting. And then over here we have our haskaps or our honeyberries, and we are getting the same issue here. We're getting the same issue here that we had other places. You can see the earth is sinking down. We're having a lot of settlement, and so we're going to top these up as well. Just so that we don't have the definite sort of root wad there. That's not a good thing. Now the rest of the garden, we've got squash and potatoes planted in this row, and then the blackberries. The blackberries are growing, but the issue here is keeping the moisture coming in. But they are coming up, and we need to get a trellis up for them shortly. 2 rows of blackberries. Some of these beds have settled a lot, though. Here is a perfect example of a bed that we didn't work super hard to pack the dirt in very well. And we're getting little mouse holes. We do have rodents living under these. But you can see there's a lot of bare and exposed wood. So this one definitely needs a little bit of work. Here are the raspberries. They haven't done super well. And let me explain why. So last summer, I did not want to run an overhead sprinkler in here. We had potatoes growing in here, squash, berries, but we had everything lined with soaker hoses. And it seemed like it was going to work really well. But then our pressure with our home system, plumbing system, wasn't actually strong enough to run the soaker hoses. So things would get wet, but it definitely wouldn't do as good a job as it needed to. So that's why we lost a lot of our raspberries. As you can see, I have transplanted and kind of moved some over, but they didn't do well. And they were kind of on the fringes, so they didn't get as much water. So those, I believe, will do fine here. It's just they didn't get the moisture they should have. But everything else is growing really well, and I'm really happy with it. So it's time to pull back some of the straw mulch we put down to keep the weeds at bay and help pull the moisture in. We got to pull it back because my man is digging up some composted animal manure that we're going to add to these rows and sort of build them back up, and especially get the blueberry roots covered. these, we're gonna have to pack soil in around these probably to get the plants to go upright. Here comes the man now. So here's a great example of what happens with these hugelkulturs. We found the sides have really settled, and then we've got these hills running up to the plant. So we don't want that. That's not good for watering, and that's not actually great for root development. So we want this to look more like this. Our currants were good. They didn't need much dealing with. But the blueberries are up now, the hascaps, the blackberries. It's all coming together and it's all growing really well and being quite healthy. All right, this berry patch is ready to go for another year, other than we do need to put in some trellises and different things to stake up the blackberries and the raspberries. But I wanted to quickly pop on here and just point out, this looks pretty scruffy. It does. There's no beating around that bush. So you can see there's a cardboard. We do still have weeds poking up through. This patch is far from finished, but this is often how it goes when you have taken a bare piece of land, you're trying to build a little hobby farm on it. Things don't happen overnight. So what we have learned to do is just to go one step at a time. So last year we set up the berry patch, we brought in the plants, we put up our artificial or short-term fencing, and it does not look good. I will be the first to admit that. But we're setting the foundation. Next year, we're hoping to bring in wood chips and chip all these rows so that the weeds stay down. We're hoping to get a better watering system in here. Right now, we have this sawhorse with an overhead sprinkler, but all in due time. It takes money to set these things up, and so we have to pick and choose when we're developing land like this. So, one more thing before I sign off. I forgot last year, I have this little book where I record, different perennial plants we take in, what they were, where they're planted, but I forgot to make an actual map of the garden beds, the berry patch beds, because here's the thing with berry patches, certain fruits need other fruit varieties that blossom at the same time so they can properly cross-pollinate, and I did not map where I planted each variety. So I need to do that just in case we lose the cross-pollinating plants and we're left with only one variety. We're not going to get a good fruit harvest. In some cases, we won't really get any fruit harvest. So I'm here with you before we go. We're going to make a map and chart out where we put what. So let's go do that. mission accomplished. This berry patch is ready to go for the next year. Of course, we're gonna have to work up some sort of trellis, but I've got my little map that I'm gonna take inside and do a little document on my computer so that we have it somewhere, and I have a special spot I keep these types of things. So here's to hoping we have another successful year and that these plants keep taking off and keep going, and I keep taking notes, and eventually we hope to have a great berry patch here.